It's a good laugh. I'm a tag rid of person. I don't know if that's a word. That way, like, if you're like me, you like to change your decor all the time. So in today's video, I'm taking some of the secondhand thrifted finds that I have found, and I'm sharing with you the process of what I'm going to do to these items to give them a little bit more love, to get them back out there and to be loved again. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne, and my jam is thrifting anywhere. I go high and low looking for items that I can resell, I can decorate my own home with, or I can share the process with you all of how I make these items over. So here's a goodie, a clear canister. Not every makeover has to be difficult, y'all. So yes, just a plain clear canister. You not only can thrift them, but you can probably go to Walmart and buy one. So I'm going to share with you my best seller when it comes to putting a label on these clear canisters. So I have my canister on my little form so it doesn't roll. Washed it with Dawn dish soap and hot water. I still want to make sure my surface is clean. So I'm just going to take a little rubbing alcohol and then just wipe that off. And we'll set that off to the side to let it dry. So here's my image. I printed out two. I wasn't sure which size I wanted it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a moment and cut those out from the copier. It's just plain copier paper. And then I can tell which one I want to use. Yep. Black Crow Cranky Coffee is like, if I can find a thrifted canister to put it on that's blank, people, it's a good laugh. It's a good laugh. So yes, do I want the big one fits completely, which is nice, or I have the smaller one, just a little bit smaller. Oh, the decisions. I think I like the little bit smaller ones only because, like, as you start to go down to the end of the jar, it kind of starts to round. Right? Yeah. I think I like this. I like this one better. But I want to back it up so you don't see that through there. So I'm going to go ahead and take some decoupage transfer gel. And I'm going to back this up with some copier paper. So it'll actually be a little bit thicker of a label. But that way you don't see all the way through the copier paper. And wherever I get it on is where it's going to stick, and then I'll cut the excess off. Okay, and while this is still wet, we're going to turn it over and we're going to put some more of the transfer gel on there and then adhere it to the glass. Make sure my corners are down. See, that way you just see white. Now to seal this in and protect that label, I'm going to use Fusion's Top Coat Tough Clear. Non-yellowing, it's a matte finish, so it won't be shiny. I'm just going to pour some out on a plate and then just use a brush to apply it. And then Goodwill find a couple of real wooden frames. They have great patina on them. The color is amazing, but we just need to get some kind of image to go in them. Great size. Look at stacking side by side. Oh my gosh, a pair. I was pretty happy when I found 2 wooden matching frames. What is the chances? Yeah, they're not something that you normally, you can if you're out like at a store, but at a thrift store, you just with nothing in them. Okay, I don't know. I'm a tag get rid of person. I don't know if that's a word. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take these off. And I had recently picked up these postcards, which I thought I was gonna have to paint. But I'm not. I'm not going to have to paint the frames. I think that's what's going to make them look so vintage, is just cutting the postcard. They're just postcards down to fit those beautiful horses in so somebody can have a matching set. You know how that goes. Sometimes you have something in your stash and it sits there forever until you find the right, item to use with it. And I was surprised. I thought, oh, how long is it going to take me to find frames to fit for these horses? So what I'm doing is I'm taking the glass out, and then I'll mark down where I want to cut the postcards down. I kind of want the artist's name if I can. I might try to get more of the horses down here in there. So bump as close as I can. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my picking tools, and I'm just going to trace around the glass. Back over to my cutter, and then I'm going to cut them down to size. As I said, not every thrift store makeover has to be this huge transformation. Just actually finding 2 pieces that could go together and be able to be displayed like these, it's just a wonderful thing. Vern Parker, if you're wondering who the artist was, I don't know much about him, but apparently he drew and painted horses, which I love. Just gotta use a little rubbing alcohol because I have it out anyway, just to make sure the glass is clean before I get these back together. Okay, image. Perfect fit. Okay, one of these slides in, and then this slides out. And then we don't need both of these, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that to hanging systems. So we might as well take it off. So this is a reproduction firkin, but it's kind of cranberry purple. So I'm going to go ahead and give it some new loving. Yes, you can tell. I mean, you can tell by the feel of it. Even the inside is painted. So I have to paint the whole thing, but yeah. So when I was cleaning this piece off, I noticed that these were screwed in. It would make it so much easier. You can definitely tell it's a newer piece. If I can take those off. So I'm hoping. Oh, yep. Hot diggity dog. it'll make it way easier to be able to paint. So I know that I want to put some type of a decoupage paper label on this. So I'm going to be using Coal Black, which is a Fusions paint with paint primer top coat all in one. And I am going to have to paint the inside. So I poured a little bit out in my cup. I have a long handled brush to get into those corners. The nice thing about Fusion paint, it's paint primer, top coat all in one. Now I can go in with my bigger brush. And I'm going to do the sides first before doing that top lip. That'll just be easier. Have it on a Lazy Susan turntable that I thrifted. Makes the job so much easier when you're going to paint like a round object like this. Years ago, we just cut up a whole bunch up, like some plywood, and then just made boards so that I had paint boards to be able to move things. And they're the same. They're the same ones. They are so covered in paint, but they don't seem to cause any problems. So. Two coats on the one side, so now it's time to flip them over and get anything else that I didn't get. We're going to put a label on the firkin. Now, I'm going to not touch this part because this is a detail in itself. So I'm actually going to flip it around completely opposite, and then the labeling, the decoupage will go right through here. That way, like, if you're like me, you like to change your decor all the time, and then you can do that one time. Just how that works. And here's my image. Isn't that awesome? Oh, there again, I wasn't sure what the sizing was that I wanted to do. I think that one's too small. I think that one's I think this one's going to be too big. Yeah, that one's going to be too big. Definitely this one. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and decoupage, Fusion's decoupage transfer gel. And we're going to put back this onto copier paper also. Not going to cut it right at the image. I'm going to leave a little bit of free edge. Because as you see my lighter over here, we are actually going to burn the edges. But I like to be safe, and I like to have a bowl of water with a wet wipe in there. So yep, so where the paper is dry, the paper is going to burn. And then where the decoupage transfer gel is still wet, it won't burn that as much or at all. So it gives you that very unique little edge. You definitely want to make sure that your paper is still wet when you're doing this. And the safety of having some water with you. I try hard not to get the ashes onto my image because it, will leave a black mark. I'm going to put a generous amount of decoupage on here because now I have two papers. I turned this around so it's upside down now. But that way it fits right in there, and those black edges, those burnt edges, definitely go with the black. I'm still going to do a little to the black, but I wanted to get my image on there first. Seal my paper in. I'm going to be using some more of the Fusion's Tough Coat in the clear and the matte finish. We're just going to be doing the image. I'm going to need to paint the hardware, the little screws, so I better get these on here and get them painted. Okay, now I'm not going to sand this because I don't want it to go down to that purple, but I am going to do a little bit of Fusion's wax and a little bit of Decrepit Dust, just to add a little bit of age. Like white will turn chalky, so we don't want to do white. I'm just doing the aging wax. And then I'll stick my brush into the dust. I'm going to blend that in a little bit. Remember, I've already sealed this in, so and a little bit of the dust, which then just looks really dark, but then you just blend it in. Little bitty swirls to the black, but I'm going to run it along the bead. Not sure, the banding? Yeah, we're going to call it banding. There's the word I was looking for. So it just doesn't look newly painted. Some people like newly painted. I don't. I like mine to have a little bit of age. So that's what I'll do. I'll just wax, and then I'll go along, and I'll just tone it down a little bit. As much as I love this vintage antique, oh, bread, the green, yes, but get closer. So when I had to wash it off, all those white marks came up because it was probably in somebody's kitchen and the grease changed the whole look of it all. So I actually put it in my retail booth, trying to sell it as is, and it has been there for over a year. So brought it home, and we are going to give it a paint job because when I do paint these, they sell right away. So I probably let this one sit longer than I should have, but I couldn't help it because I knew it was vintage. But sometimes some of the items are just worse for wear and people don't want them. So I've actually already put this in my sink. I've washed it, but I want to take some 220 sandpaper and just scuff it up just a little bit, just to give something for paint to grab onto. Okay, now that I have it as sanded as best as I can, I'm just going to take some Dawn dish soap, some hot water, wipe it back down, get that sandy dust off there. So So the inside of this has a vent hole, so I'm going to go ahead and just take some tape right now while I'm remembering and cover up that, so hopefully paint doesn't drip in there. Now that it looks even more of a hot mess than it did before, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to spray it with some shellac just to kind of even out where I've sanded, where some stuff is left in case there's any kitchen grease left that I didn't get. Okay, so I'd like to be able to match up that green. I think the green is lovely. Okay, so I'm going to start off with in a pickle, which I think is a good base, but it might be a little brighter than what that is. So I'm going to do 2 scoops of that. A little bit more. Okay, there you go. And then a 1/2 scoop of Pantry Door, which is a lighter, to lighten it up just a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out a 1/2 there. And then a 1/2 of basil, which will take that brightness of the, this is going to lighten up, and then this is going to take the brightness, hopefully, in the pickle away. So you can kind of see when you're mixing it if it's going to be the color you want. So now I have to add equal parts water. And you definitely want to make sure when you're doing a metal like that, you want to make sure that it's mixed well, not clumpy, not runny. I think that's a good color. So you stir it for 2 minutes, you let it thicken up, but to this mixture, I'm going to be adding Extra Bond, which is going to help the paint stick to that metal. Even though I shellacked it still, I'm going to try out some Extra Bond. So Extra Bond is what this little container has. And so you mix up 2-to-1 ratio. So whatever 1/2 this is right here, I'm going to mix the Extra Bond in there. So it's kind of eyeball. Don't stress. It'll be fine. Kind of looks like glue, but it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that in there. That's like a little reassurance that it's not going to chip off on you. So I'm just going to let this thicken up a little bit before I start painting. So instead of letting my bread box just sit on my board, I have some hockey pucks that I thrifted. I just wrapped them in packing tape and Ziplocs. And so that'll raise that up. So like if paint falls down, drips down, it's not pooling underneath and making the bottom a hot mess. So I think to start off with, I will do the inside last. But for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and start painting. Giving my paint another little stir because it's been sitting. Scraping off those sides, the bottom. And here we go. Oh, that's a pretty close match, I have to say. So when it comes to painting metal, like the shellac is giving the paint something to grab onto. So it's not like, it's not like wood. There's nothing for it to soak into. And of course, that first is going to look like it's translucent. And if I have any clumps, maybe I shouldn't have scraped off the bottom. I don't want clumps on my Nice thing about the rim, you can just, yeah, like I am, just take your fingernail and clean it up. Pretty easy. See, that's where I said it would be good to tape off that inside with some tape because it has those vent holes. You see, I'm trying to keep that little rolled over lip not painted. But if I get on it, I gotta take it off as soon as I do. And my nail seems to be working out just fine. Your crafter, nails are a tool. As a hairdresser of 30 some years, I would yell at you for doing like, your nails aren't tools. That was if you're paying to get your nails done. Paying to get your nails done, then your nails are not tools. Coat number 1 is good and dry, so now it's on to coat number 2. And then you'll notice that number 1 really attracts the number 2 coat. Though it's not going to be enough to completely cover it because we're doing very thin coats. So it's the fun of doing the rim now, but I do think that that matters. So I had to go in with a tinier brush after painting the rest of the rim. Okay, now that we're all painted, like I said, 5 coats. It really did take 5 coats, but they were thin coats. I have one little crackling wanted to happen like right there, but it's okay. So I'm going to seal the whole thing in with some weather defense metal spray. So now I'm going to stencil back on the word bread. So I'm going to be using IOD's letterpress stamp set. I don't know the font name, but I'm using the biggest ones on this set. So not that I'm going to be doing a bird or anything, I'm actually looking, the Pennsylvania folk stamp has this line. So even though I don't want to try to tape off and put the previous line back on here, I did this little tester piece and I think it looks just fine. And then this is a good way to do a tester to make sure that all your letters are all lined up. So in case anybody ever struggles with lining up their letters, you don't line up the letter with the bottom of the stamp. You actually line up the letter with the bottom of the letter. So I like to use my stamping mount and the grid pattern, something straight across, so I can make sure the bottom of my letters are lined up. Not, remember, like not the bottom of the stamp itself, or it will not be even, it'll be all wonky. And then I decided that the stamping mount is just too much. I just am not secure. Even if I open the lid, I feel like it's going to move around. You know, when it's a one and done kind of thing, so I don't want to mess up. So I decided that I was going to take my stamps off my stamping mount, and I was just going to use my little packing tape pack that I have a little bit more control of. So you just use a piece of packing tape, you fold over the sides, make little handles, you know, same thing, straighten out your letters, make sure everything's all good. It's just an easier way to handle a small group of letters. And because I was adding the line, I ended up adding 2 pieces of tape so I could add that little bitty of a line. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and test it out, make sure everything is good before putting it on my bread box. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Yes, taking secondhand finds that are still in great shape. They have body, giving them a little bit more character, giving them a new paint job in the hopes that somebody will love them yet again. So thanks for watching today's video. As always, give me a quick comment down which of the items I made over today were your favorites, and if I have inspired you in any way to look at secondhand finds in a new way. And please, if you're not already part of our wonderful, caring, loving, supportive YouTube family, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we upload a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.